Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dr. Mama Says podcast, where you will hear a variety of timeless tips on parenting and healthcare. Thanks so much for joining today, and now it's time to get on with the show. Hey there everyone, I'm Dr. Burton, your host of the Dr. Mama Says podcast. Today's episode is going to be a discussion about the family table. The table, you ask? That's right, I'm talking about the kitchen table. It has a long history of being the central point for family gatherings, but I think it's slowly being phased out. Did you know the family table has some extreme value? At the end of this podcast, you might look at your table with a little bit of a different appreciation. As adults, we know that when we go to someone's house, no matter how beautiful the home is, or how many TVs are on the deck or in the basement, most people end up gathering around the kitchen. In fact, kitchens used to be kind of boring, just with some basic appliances and the kitchen table. But as popularity grew, kitchens have become the room to have renovated so that everybody can have seating around that kitchen table, around the center island, and even little sitting areas around with couches and love seats. People just don't want to be too far from that kitchen. This amount of kitchen decor has not always been present. It was something that's grown over the past few decades. So why do we gather in the kitchen with our friends? We are eating, drinking, chatting. We're connecting. Plus, food makes everything better, am I right? But while we're hanging out in the kitchen, we're also using all 5 of our senses. Yes, I'm going to get all medical on you right here. The 5 senses. We're looking at each other while we're speaking. We're listening to our conversations and our background noise. We're smelling the delicious meals that have been prepared, touching all the different textures of food, and of course, tasting those wide ranges of flavors and all kinds of foods and drinks that are being offered. We are fully engaged and deeply connected to each other while huddling around that kitchen island or family table. So why do you think we began to love being in the kitchen? Well, I'm no researcher, and I don't claim to be an expert on all things. But since this is my podcast, I get to share my opinions about whatever I want. So now, I think that we began to love the kitchen, gathering in the kitchen, because deep, deep in the back of our minds, we grew up understanding that the kitchen is an important place where our family bonds began. Thinking back over generations, what happy times do you recall being in the kitchen? Mothers, grandmothers often spent hours preparing meals that everyone waited with anticipation to eat. Kids would often play in the kitchen while mom was cooking. They make messes trying to help, and of course, kids are often the unofficial taste testers. I still remember being with my brothers and sisters, hanging out around our mom while she was cooking in the kitchen, and we would call out what we wanted to get to taste. It was often first come, first served. If we smelled her cooking, we would race to the kitchen to see what we could have. I would call out, "I get to lick the beaters." That's a reference to the mixing bowl and the beaters that mom used. She used that mixing bowl every day because there were not a lot of those simple cake recipes where all you had to do was add egg and water. Cooking in the mixing bowl was a big adventure. My brother might call out, "I get the bowl." Now I'm here to tell you, if you have not been given a bowl after the cake mix has been poured, have you even lived? Using fingers and spatulas, we would scrape all the excess goodness and put some of it in our mouths, and lots of it would end up on our faces and hands. These are warm, precious memories. And I remember doing all this tasting while sitting at the family table. We would grab that beater or grab that bowl and sit down at the table like it was a meal. Good times. Great memories. And we would also stay around and taste the main meal too. Cornbread stuffing, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, whatever my mom was cooking, we wanted to taste it before it was time to eat. It was a tradition. Then we would set the table and everyone would sit down. We ate as a family. And it was a time for all of us to be connected, to catch up on what each of us was doing. We had to each stop our individual lives and actually spend a few minutes focusing on each other. I think the family table allows mealtime to strengthen our relationship. It increases our sense of belonging to one another. Our lives are so busy. Sometimes we need to stop, refocus, and get regrounded. Yes, we all had our own friends and different activities, but family time was our time. I remember being at a friend's home and being told it was time to go home since they were going to eat. It was their family time and it was time for me to go. I also remember trying to hide my friends in my bedroom when it was time for me to eat with my family. I wanted to play as soon as we were done eating, and I wanted my friend to be waiting for me. It was hard for kids to learn that family time should be protected family time. And of course, there were the times that we got to call home to our families and ask permission to eat at our friend's house, or they called to eat at our house. These were special times for inviting special people into our special family circle, all held around that family table. These nightly bonding sessions at the family table were simply normal events for us. It was easier when I was growing up. Way back when Fred Flintstone lived in our neighborhood. Goodness, my childhood feels like it was a million years ago. Homes had one TV. There were no cell phones or internet. We had each other. After dinner, as a family, we would sit and watch TV. I remember my entire family gathered around the TV, watching the Apollo space launch, the news coverage of the assassination of Martin Luther King, the news about John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy's assassinations. We bonded over these memorable events as a family. I mean, how many current events, major history-worthy events, have you been sitting down and watching with your kids? Please make sure you're together sharing it, discussing it as a family. This will stick with them forever. Anyway, I am very concerned that this rich tradition of using the valuable family table time is coming to an end. I think it's been having a slow death for many, many years, but I'm encouraging each one of you to try to bring it back to life. I raised my young kids in the 90s and 2000s when cell phones were just in their infant state for adults, so we were not distracted by them and there was no meaningful use by kids yet. By the mid-2000s, my kids were using their cell phones, but they were sometimes used, not this 24/7 thing that's going on right now. Many of you know I am a strong advocate of reducing screen time, not just based on what I see in my office every day, which is plenty and is not pretty, but also everywhere in life. Just look around in the next restaurant you go to. See how many families are actually interacting with each other as opposed to interacting with their individual electronic devices. Where's the conversation, the eye contact, the connecting? Every parent says they have a plan and a schedule for electronic device use, but I don't see it. Everywhere you look, both kids and parents are on devices, talking to people who are not with them. What? What is that all about? Why not use that valuable time to actually talk and interact with people that you are with? Time is precious and you can't get it back. Your devices will be there forever. In the 90s, we had that traditional family table with meals and connecting time. Even though I'm not a good cook, not at all, we had family meals. We found a way to eat food and survive. So you don't have to be a great cook to use that great family time. I think most parents know that it can be kind of hard to get kids to talk about their days. And one of my patients' moms told me that I should start having routine dinner conversations where my kids were expected to contribute some comment each night at dinner. When I was growing up, it was just natural conversation about whatever was going on in the neighborhood. I don't remember there ever being a shortage of things to talk about. But now, kids are grumpy and tired and answer many questions with the good, fine. Now, to be honest, I still get my fair share of text replies saying good and fine, but I digress. I'm talking about young childhood. With so much going on in your kids' lives, you want them to open up and include you in their lives. Parents are always asking each other, how do I get my kids to open up? I am really grateful for that one mom who shared with me something I would have never done. It was an organized family table conversation, and it began when they were in preschool. Each night at dinner, we went around the table and everyone had to say something that happened today, good, bad, or otherwise. The lame answer of nothing really happened was not acceptable, and we would all just sit and wait for you to say something. Now, when you're a preschooler or a grade schooler, a few minutes of silence while everyone waits for you to answer can feel like years. So, of course, my girls struggled at first to find something to say, but eventually it became easier. Sometimes it was hard to find interesting things to share from our adult lives that we thought the kids would be interested in. We had to dig deep to find something. I remember being excited when something funny would happen at the office or in the operating room, and I was thinking, this is going to be so funny when I share tonight with my girls. Yes, there's a bit of pressure on parents to not be boring either, and our girls got a kick out of hearing things from an adult perspective. It was interesting to let them think about the adult stories and over time say things like, but aren't they adults? Bingo! My girls learned that kids will grow up to be adults who sometimes still act like kids. Over time, as our girls got older and participated in more and more extracurricular activities, the semi-home cooked meals often became takeout and delivery. But we still sat at the table, passing slices of pizza and chatting about the day. Many laughs were shared at our family table. It became a safe, welcoming place. It was a predictable place and an easy way for them to share a story that they knew was going to trigger a conversation. It was an easy out for the drama of middle school to casually share a story because they had to say something, but in fact they could have chosen another fun fact to share. So them picking the topic told us what was really on their mind, helped me to pay attention to certain things. No, of course I didn't say I was paying attention to it. I acted like it was just casual conversation. What parent would actually say, "Oh, let me help you with that," or, "Oh, I will watch out for that"? You would immediately get that cold, steely eye. And future conversations? Shut off. The information that you get around that family table in those conversations is for you just to tuck it away and for you to quietly watch to see what's going on. Yep, stealth parenting. Now, between meals, our girls would soon start to stack up school textbooks, notebooks, computers, and all kinds of school gear at their spots, on their placemats. Wait, you don't have assigned seating at your family table? I don't actually remember when it got assigned, but we've always sat in the same seats. The family table for eating can morph right into the family table for work and discussions. Even though each girl had her own room with her own desk, they were more often than not sitting at the kitchen table doing schoolwork. I love this because it allowed me to casually walk into the kitchen, grab a cup of tea, sit in my chair, and act surprised that they were there. "Oh, what are you up to?" That's me doing the quick check-in. Sometimes I'd get the brief, "Nothing," and then I would pick up my tea and keep it moving, back to the bedroom. Other times, spontaneous talks would occur about topics I didn't even know were a concern. It can be much easier to check in on kids who are sitting in the open community area like the kitchen table. If kids learn to retreat into their private bedrooms immediately after dinner, it's a much bigger deal when you try to enter their room and start a conversation. Just opening a closed door to a bedroom, you can almost feel that steely-eyed stare and you get that, "What? What is it?" Go ahead and knock on that closed door and then wait to see how slowly they respond with a drawn-out, ugly, "What do you want?" Yes, trust me. The casual walk by the family table can lead to a much warmer welcome. Research has shown that families that eat meals together are happier and healthier. No, I can't quote that research, but it's what they say. Who is they? The internet, of course. And I'm sure some resourceful person out there can find the actual data. Please feel free to message that back to me so I can look a little bit more knowledgeable in the future. Okay, thanks for that. Anyway, I love this description of the family table as a place to nourish the mind, soul, and stomach of everyone at the table. Now, how delicious does that sound? Everyone has a different schedule, so the frequency of family meals may change, but you should work to make it a priority. Could be breakfast before school, or even a late bedtime snack. Since something is better than nothing, setting up a once-a-week family table meal is still useful. The key is to get everyone at the family table at the same time. With our fast-paced lives, I think many relationships have become more superficial. Old-school letter writing changed into emails, now to texts, which often are just quick abbreviations. We need to make time for people in our lives. If no one else, it needs to be your family. Brothers and sisters often forget to check in on each other because they're too busy with their own friends. The family table allows this to happen. It forces busy parents to stop thinking about their jobs or lists of things to do and actually have face-to-face conversations with their kids. Undivided attention is special and rare. When my girls went off to college, they would come back to visit and immediately sit in their same seats. We would then often gather around the family table just to catch up on what's been going on. Of course, food and snacks were a common thing to be shared, but the family table continued to unite us. Now my girls are full-time adulting, paying bills, living in an apartment. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes! But they still visit. And when they do, they still sit at their chair at the family table. We still remain bonded, sitting at the table, sharing our life updates. I highly recommend you increase the use of your valuable family table. And of course, this means put the electronics away for kids and adults. We had a wicker basket next to the refrigerator that would collect phones. You should get one too. Start when kids are young so it becomes a habit. Who cannot find 1 hour to be away from their phone? If they can't, they may just have an electronic device addiction that needs to be addressed. Now, I've talked about this subject at length in both blog and podcast form. It's a real issue. So in summary, some of the benefits for increasing the use of that valuable family table includes, number 1, beginning the tradition of each family member saying something about their day, sharing experiences, starting the concept that kids need to share something about their day with parents. Doesn't have to be a big deal. Sometimes one of my girls might have said something like, Julie wore a dress today. I don't know what that meant, but it clearly meant something to them. So I would just make a little mental note to go then look to see, who is this Julie? Just sharing a little bit of their life, and I loved it. Number 2, try to have one meal together each day. It's easier when they're young, but try to do it. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Homemade, takeout, or delivery. Anything. Just sit still for a minute and make eye contact. So yes, this means eating takeout in the car, driving down the road, talking over your shoulder. That doesn't count. Get that takeout, save it till you sit at the kitchen table and can make that eye contact. Number 3, require a screen-free zone during meals. Enough said. I have beat this topic enough already. Number 4, encourage kitchen time bonding over cooking, even if it's just making cookies or brownies. Are your kids taste testers? Do you ask them what is missing or needs to be added to your meals? Number 5, encourage kids to take ownership of duties like setting the table and cleaning up. This is their kitchen too. Something can be done at every age. Who's folding the napkins? Who gets the cups or the silverware? Who brings the dishes close to the sink for washing? I'm a big fan of kids having family duties, as it does give them a sense of ownership and accomplishment. Number 6, create a space that can become the heart of the home. When you come into the house, where do you go first? Try to avoid kids walking in the house and immediately going up into their room, closing the door, waiting to be called down to dinner to go back up and close the door. That is not a cycle that's easy to break. Number 7, establish a sense of belonging and caring about each other. Goals and fears and accomplishments will all eventually be shared when the habit of family conversations are started. Number 8, the family table allows the family to also work side by side. As our kids got older, it was not uncommon for each of us to have a laptop doing our own thing, but we were all in the same room. Number 9, the more time we're together, the more time we have for spontaneous discussions. So while we're working side by side, sometimes someone might have an idea that pops into their head, they share a topic, and a brief spontaneous conversation would start that would not have happened if we had to walk into another room. I mean, let's be honest. If you have to get up, walk into another room, and start a conversation, don't you feel like it needs to have a little bit of something worthwhile to say? Casual chats, spontaneous conversations don't have to be worthwhile. You just look up from your computer, say a few words, get on back to what you were doing. And number 10, that family table needs to provide lifelong comfort. You want your kids to come gather around as adults. Our seats are still our seats. Our placemats are still our placemats. We leave each other notes and mail and messages there. I love coming home and seeing something left on my placemat. Our family table is still very valuable to us. So now go home and take a look at that welcoming kitchen table. See it with renewed eyes. Start wherever you are. Work to bring out the value in your table. So that's it for now. I gotta go. I hope you come back and listen to the next episode soon. I truly want to thank you for spending your time listening to Dr. Mama Says. It means a lot to me because without you, there would certainly be no podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, I would love for you to go to iTunes and consider giving me a 5-star rating. This will help me to gain the support I need to continue bringing new and exciting content. To review any information presented in this episode, a summary of our show can be found on the web at www.drmamasays.com. And don't forget to subscribe if you've not done so yet. Until the next time, hope you come back to listen again soon.